In this video, I'm going to show you how a lawyer, attorney, or law firm can set up their projects in Asana to manage their legal cases and matters. Hello, my name is Paul Miners and welcome back to another one of our Asana training videos. Now, we've had a number of law firms approach us and have become clients because they're not sure of the best way to set up Asana for the types of legal cases and matters that they need to manage. Because they really like the project management and task management features within Asana, which they often find more useful than other law-specific tools. For example, a lot of the clients we work with have used tools like Clio, which are great for more of the billing and almost like the sales side of the business, but they've told us that they don't really like the task management side of Clio. And that's where a tool like Asana can come in. It's much more suited to task and project management. It has time tracking, which can be synced back to Clio for managing your billing. And overall, it provides a really holistic picture of the cases and clients that you have on the go at the moment. Now, if you are a law firm coming to Asana for the first time, then click the link in the description below if you'd like to request a quote for your Asana subscription. We'll help make sure we get you the best price, and we can also help you with support, onboarding, and training so you can set up your account in the best way and make sure your attorneys and paralegals are using the tool correctly. And if you have any questions at the end of this video, feel free to leave me a comment down below. Now, in a sec, I'll share my screen, and there's two main methods I'm going to show you in terms of how to set up your cases or matters in Asana. And the method you choose really depends on the type of legal cases and law work that you do. We have some clients that take on really big commercial projects like acquisitions, and for those really big projects where there are much longer time frame and there's a lot more steps involved, that's going to require you to use an entire project in Asana for each case or client that you need to manage. And then we have some clients who do a higher volume of much smaller cases. For example, managing divorce settlements, setting up wills, or property acquisitions and sales. And for those types of smaller cases where you may be doing a lot higher volume, I'm going to show you a method of setting up what I call an evergreen project, where we use a task for each client or case that you're taking on. Let's have a look. So here I am inside our Asana demo account. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is set up a project template. This is going to be a template that we use for those much bigger cases that have a longer time frame or where there are many more steps involved for that particular case or matter. I'm going to click and open one of our teams from the left-hand side. This is where the project template will live. So if I click on this View All Work, I can see the projects we have on the go right now and the templates that live inside that team. So we're going to click here to create a new template. And the beauty of a template is obviously each case is a bit different, but we can set up the checklist or the tasks and milestones that we generally need to go through every single time we do a project like this. This is important for making sure we don't miss a step and for just being more efficient and making sure that we follow the correct process every single time. So I'm just going to use the example of a company acquisition. I'm guessing that acquiring a business is probably something that takes a little bit of time and there's a few steps involved. When you set up your template, you can choose, do you want to let anyone in the team edit this? Or I would usually suggest making it so that anyone in the team can use it, but restricting who's allowed to edit. And there we go, we'll go ahead and create our template. Now, when you set up a project or template, the first thing you need to decide is how you're going to use sections. Now, sections are the headings inside the project, which you generally use to organize the tasks into different categories or stages. So for this company acquisition, I might have stage 1, client onboarding. We need to onboard the client, there's certain information we need to collect, that type of thing. We then have stage 2, due diligence, about the diligence. There we go, if I could spell. What have I done? There we go. We need to get information about the company we are acquiring. We then have stage 3, let's go into documents and agreements, getting all the paperwork ready. I'm not sure what the stages are. I'm not a lawyer. I'm being fairly generic here, and I'm sure you'll come up with much better sections than me. Then we're going to go into stage 4, negotiation, and stage 5, final sign off. Again, you can name these sections whatever you want depending on your particular process or how you want to manage things. Now that I have my sections ready to go, I'm now going to start to create some of the tasks for the steps I need to take for each of these sections. So for example, in client onboarding, we need the client to sign agreement. This is our agreement with the client. There's obviously certain terms they need to agree to. We need to collect client information and documents. Maybe there's financial documents we need to get, or shareholder agreements and things. We just need to gather all that paperwork. And then what I might do at the end of this, there's probably a lot more steps, but then I'll have a final milestone, client onboarding complete. And if I right click on here, I can mark this as a milestone. Milestones typically represent the major, milestones or deadlines within the project. This is going to be useful later because when we add this project to a portfolio, we'll be able to see at a high level the projects we have on the go right now and what milestones we've completed from each one. So I generally like finishing each section with a milestone. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to build out the tasks and milestones for the rest of these sections. So I've now finished building out the client template with the tasks and milestones that we need to complete. For the purpose of this demo, I've kept it very generic. I'm sure the lawyers and attorneys watching will laugh at how vague I'm being, and I'm sure your template will have a lot more in it. But you'll notice that I've put milestones at the end of each section. So due diligence complete, documents and agreements complete, agreement reached, acquisition complete. This is just, again, nice for tracking high level how far through this project we are. Some of these tasks I have put subtasks in. So here we go, requesting company documents and financials. I've broken this down using subtasks into the actual agreements that and documents that we need, and adding these files to our OneDrive folder. I've also set up approvals, which you can do by marking as approval here. This is useful if you need to show a task that is where you've requested changes or rejected, so useful for kind of when you're drafting agreements and things like that. So there we go. We've built out our project with sections, tasks, milestones, and approvals. Now, the next thing we can do is customize this project, and we can add additional fields for capturing important information about our work. A really useful feature, especially for lawyers and attorneys and paralegals, is you want to be able to track your time. So if you click this time your work option, Asana will add, if I click on one of these tasks now, a section where you can estimate the hours for your work. So you can say, right, this needs to take an hour to review and get that agreement signed. And it has also added this actual time field here. I can't see that yet in my template, but when I use this template to create an actual project, I will be able to track the actual time that we've spent on each of these tasks. You can also set up your own custom fields for things like tracking the status of a task. So I could add a new field here. And when you create fields in Asana, you can set them up as single or multi-select fields. You can have date fields if you want to track deadlines for when documents or agreements need to be signed. Person fields if we need to link in certain stakeholders. And so let's set up a status field. And this is where we can be a lot more specific to our particular process. Maybe we have queue in progress, and then we might have waiting on client, our client, and then we might have waiting on company, the company we're acquiring, and then changes needed and complete. So once we create that field, we then get this new column in here, and this is where we can say, right, maybe when we are reviewing the documents with our client, I could then set this status as waiting on client. Whereas when I have presented the offer to the company, we are going to be changing the status to waiting on company. So that's a nice way that we'll be able to track what status are we at with the different tasks in this project. Now, there's other customization we can apply to this project. We can set up forms and rules. I'm not going to go into everything in this particular video because there's so much I can talk about and cover. But the last thing I do want to briefly highlight is task templates, just to get you thinking about how you might use a feature like this. So a task template, obviously we're working inside a project template right now, but we can use task templates for creating smaller checklists or tasks that we can use repeatedly within the overall project. So if I add a task template, maybe we need one for document review. Every time we review a document, we need to print and reviewed by attorney, presented to client, feedback received, changes made. Again, I'm being very vague here just for the purpose of the demo. The whole point of this is now I can use this task template time and time again, and I can set up tasks using the template for each of the documents that I need to review. So let's stick with that for now. The final thing I would do with this template, as you can see I've done already, is put in some of the estimated hours for the tasks that we need to complete. Actual time, of course, we're going to leave that for now. Same with statuses, we're not going to fill those in yet. Now, a couple of other things I might do in this template before I begin using it is I can pre-fill the assignee and date fields. So let's say a task like this, request company documents, this is always done by Lindsay on my team. Regardless of the project, she's always the one that does that specific task. So I'm going to assign that to her in the template. Whereas reviewing the documents with the client, that's going to depend on the lawyer or attorney in the project or who's running that project. So this is where I might use a role. So I can create a project role. We could have a role for the lawyer or attorney, or maybe even paralegal. We could have other roles for admin staff and so on, but let's just start with those three. So then this task I can pre-assign to the lawyer role. And so when I use this task, use this template to create my actual live project, I can fill that role with somebody on my team, and those tasks will be assigned to that particular person. So I'll just leave those two, but you would go through now and pre-assign either to people or roles all of those tasks. I can also put on dates as well. So maybe starting at the beginning, signing the client agreement. This needs to happen within the first 7 days after the project start date. And actually, I should point out here, when you are putting dates on your tasks, you need to either date them based on the project start date or based on a project due date. So whether you are working forwards or backwards. Project due dates work really well for working backwards from like a launch date or an event date. Most likely for a legal case, you're going to work from a project start date, although I might be wrong. So 7 days after the project start date, this needs to be done. We need to have client documents within 14 days. And look, this is just my ideal timeline. This might change later, but I think it's good to have some rough dates on here to help keep the project moving. We might want to have this done after about 30 days, 45 days, and so on. Tasks like price negotiation, we could apply a date range. So maybe this happens between days, 60 and let's do end date, 60 and 90. So I could put a date range on that particular task. So that's how I'd finish up my template. I'd go through and I'd pre-assign the assignees or predate those date fields. And now my template is ready to go. I'm going to click done. And if we want to use this straight away, I can click use template. And actually, I missed a step. Let me go back. Let's edit this one more time. On the settings page here, what I'm going to do is every time I use this template to set up an actual live project, I want to put those projects into a portfolio, which I'm going to show you in a bit. So we're going to make a portfolio called company acquisitions. In fact, I can't do that here. So let's quickly, we'll leave that template for a sec. We'll go to my portfolios and we'll set one up for company acquisitions. This is going to be a sort of like a dashboard where I can see all of the company acquisition projects that we have on the go at the moment. So I've just set up my portfolio. Let's go back to my template, edit that, settings, and now when I use this template, the project will automatically add to our portfolio. So now let me go ahead and use this template. So let's say, just for example, we are going to acquire Apple acquisition. Bit of a long shot. Let's see if we can do it. Let's acquire Apple. And so I need to choose what's the start date for this project. Maybe we're starting today, but let's just put it as Feb 1st just to be easy. So we're starting on February 1st. And it's going to ask me here, who are the lawyers and attorneys for this project? So Warwick is my lawyer. Let's do Holly is my attorney. And Liam is my paralegal. Now, Asana's going to take a minute to build out that actual project. While it's doing that, I just want to explain something, because a common question that I get at this point is, if I edit a template, do the changes that I make flow down to all the projects that I've built using the template? The answer is, it depends on the subscription you have. I've set up the template there as a project template within one of my teams. Now, if you're on the starter or advanced plan of Asana, that's how you would do it. Now, unfortunately, that would mean when you use the template to create your project, if you make changes to the template, maybe you change some tasks or any of the customization that you've done, those changes would not apply to the projects you've already set up. However, if you have an enterprise subscription, and again, contact us for a quote, we'll help you get the best price, you can set up your template in what's called a bundle. Now, with a bundle, when you edit your template in the bundle, the changes that you make will flow down to any projects that you have connected to the bundle. So this is especially useful for law firms if you are changing your templates or changing customization, because you don't really want to have to go back and change all of your active live projects. If you have any questions about that, feel free to reach out to us and we'll help you decide which option is best for you. But for now, let's go and have a look at the project that we set up. So here is a look at the project that was created. It's been populated with all of my tasks, including my subtasks, the milestones and approvals that we've set up. You can see some of my tasks have been assigned to the paralegal or lawyer on the project and whoever I pre-assigned those tasks to. My dates have populated based on the dates that we specified there in the template. And my customization has been applied, so I can even come up here and use the task template that I created. For example, reviewing a document. So I can use that template, it populates my subtasks, and financial statement review. I can rename that and use my task templates. If I go over to my portfolios, so here are my company acquisitions project, there's my Apple acquisition. So obviously I have just one project in here right now, but imagine I have 20 projects on the go. I'd have a really nice high level view where I can see the status of each project. Are we on track or behind? I can see the task percentage completion, or I could even add in here the milestone progress. I find really useful. So I can see, let's drag that over, which of those milestones have we completed? And this is why I quite like, if we go to that project, when I check off, big milestones, I can actually see that reflected in my portfolio. There we go, milestones again. There we go, we need to save the view this time. There we go, I can see which milestones have been completed. So that is the first method or way in which you can manage your cases or matters in Asana, where you have an entire project for each case. And I think, again, this is particularly suited to those cases where it's a longer time frame or there's lots of tasks that you need to complete. Now I'm going to show you a slightly different approach where we're going to, instead of using an entire project, we're going to have one evergreen project for all of our cases, and we're going to use tasks. The reason for this is we're going to do this for those sort of higher volume cases where we're doing a lot of them, and maybe there's fewer steps involved for each one. An example might be, and I might be getting this wrong, but we see people do this for things like divorce settlements, setting up wills, property title changes, things like that. Let's take a look. First, I'm going to create a new project. I can do that from the Create button here. I'm going to go New Project. We're going to set up a blank project this time. We're not going to use a template. We're going to start from scratch. And let's do divorce settlements. And we're going to add that to my Asana demo team. This next step is just asking me what tabs or views do I want in Asana. I'll just leave those ones for now. Let's just go ahead and create our project. Now, same as before, the first thing we need to do is decide how we're going to use sections. Now, for these types of evergreen projects, we probably want to use sections more as the status or stage that each case needs to go through. So we might have a section here for, new clients, or actually let's start again with client onboarding. I quite like that, where we're gathering information from the client, onboarding them. We then might have a section for initial review, going through the details with the client, and due diligence. We're going to do that. I still can't spell diligence. There we go. We're then going to go into maybe initial pleadings. Maybe we then go into court filings, and then we go into maybe closing, closing, maybe I don't know what we should call this, closing and settlement, settling the case. Okay, so those are the statuses or stages that each case is going to go through. And again, similar to our template, what I would do now is use a task template, which we're going to use to store all the information for the cases that we're working on. Now, working with one of our clients recently, we built different workflows or processes based on whether whether the client was the petitioner or the responder. So the first thing I'm going to do in my project is customize our fields, and I'm going to create a field, and we're going to call this client type, and this is going to be a single selection field, and we're going to set this up as petitioner and the responder, because depending on what side of the case or divorce this client is on, we're going to have different processes. So I'm going to set up my client type, and what I would also do at this stage is probably have task templates for, again, whether you are a petitioner template and a responder template. Now, in each of those templates, I can maybe in the description gather some basic information like name, phone, email, date of birth, occupation, income. Like, this is where I'd probably store a lot of the important information about that client. Similar to what I showed before, I'd also then create subtasks for any of the tasks that we need to do for this client. Maybe like request proof of income, request proof of ID, etc. We need all those documents together. I'm going to fast track through this a little bit. You get the idea. We're going to use those task templates so that now I can, when I have a new client come to me and say, right, I'm a petitioner, we can use the template to store all their information in here, and we can start to request, some of the details that we are going to need. So if I'm the client in this case, we would then move this client through these various stages. And of course, let's say I am the petitioner in this case. In fact, what I'd probably do, let me go back to my template. In my petitioner template, I would pre-fill that field, okay? And the reason for using this field is now we can use rules. I didn't show this before, but this is where we could say, right, we could set up a custom rule. So I could say, if we move a task to a certain section, and maybe the section is changed, and check if the task is in the, let's just say, I don't know, initial review and due diligence section. And we also want to add another condition where we check if the client type is petitioner. So if we move a petitioner task into the initial review and due diligence section, we need to create maybe a new subtask. We could say we need a task for review housing situation, and we need another one for provide proof of income or something like that. And some of these might be on both sides. But anyway, now what I can do is with my rule, I can have another branch here. So I can say otherwise, if we move the task into the initial review and due diligence section, and we also have another condition where the client type is the responder, so now we're on the other side of the case, I could have different subtasks. So I could say, right, for these subtasks, we need to provide statement of financial position, different subtasks for the different types of clients that we might have to work with. So we've created this conditional logic now where when we move the task, based on the type of client we're dealing with, we can have different subtasks be generated. So if you now move this task into here, let's watch what happens. my rule will run, and because I'm the petitioner, Asana has created these new additional subtasks for me. And again, what I would probably do in a project like this is customize it with some time tracking options. So I would do this under fields, add new, and we're going to go time your work. So this is going to add the estimated and actual time to our tasks. This is really useful. So maybe, I don't know, on average, we want to spend, let's just say, 20 hours. That's probably not enough time. Let's just say 20 hours per divorce. And then so as I'm working on this task, maybe I am reviewing the housing situation here. Maybe this takes, 2 hours of my estimated 20. I can then start a timer when I work on this, or I can track my actual time. So maybe this actually takes 2.5 hours. And so now when I go back and look at my parent task, I can see we've actually got 22 hours of estimated based on our subtasks, and the actual we've tracked 2 hours 30 minutes already. You can see that here in the project as well. So this is a nice, really quick way I can keep a high-level view on how long have we spent on each of the cases that we are working at the moment. And as you can see, if imagine this was more built out, imagine I had 30 or 40 different divorce settlements happening at any one time. It would probably get quite overwhelming to have a project for each one in Asana. And also if they're much shorter in duration, we can get away with managing a higher volume of cases or divorce settlements as tasks in just this one project. So that was a bit of a look at how to use Asana to manage cases and matters for a law firm. We've really just scratched the surface there, but I hope by showing you some of the features in Asana and how they apply to legal cases and law firms, you get a bit of a sense of how this tool can be customized to suit this particular industry. As I mentioned, if you are looking for help with setting up Asana in the best way, if you've watched that and you just want someone to hold your hand through the process, click the link in the description below to learn more about our consulting services. We can also help with licensing and subscriptions for Asana as well. And if you have any questions at the end of this video, feel free to leave me a comment below. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.